Well, Jackie, you know, if you had to sit down and have a chalk talk with maybe someone who's deceased or one of the current players or coaches today, what three people would you like to sit down and have a talk with?
Wow, that's a good question, Vince. You know, the guy that I'd have to put at the very top, the very top of that list would have to be Bill Belichick.
For sure.
Bill Belichick would obviously go on the top of that.
I thought you might say that.
Yeah, you did? Well, Vince, listen, I have watched this guy now closely with a scrutinizing eye.
Right.
You know, for going on 16 years now. That's how long my son has played with him. And I have never seen a guy so systematically in control of every aspect of a football team as Bill Belichick is.
Yeah.
I have never seen it before. I have never even heard. I have never
and demand it and demand his players to follow the protocol of what I set in place.
Absolutely.
And if you don't like it,
let me know, and we'll let the door hit you where the sun don't shine on your way out. I'm telling you, man, it has been amazing the amount of responsibility he gives young people. You know, the amazing amount of how he recognizes leadership and he deploys that leadership within the rank and file, and how he's consistently recognizing great talent of his opponents and conjuring up game plans to take them away or at least neutralize their impact on his team, and then to come out victorious. And the other thing, Vince, listen, I played 20 years of pro football. I never was on a team where, as a team, we collectively felt like we were going to win every game. If we did our parts, we had that much trust in our leadership that we were going to win every game. This is the kind of coaching that these guys in New England have been getting. And that supersedes quarterbacks, that supersedes special teams guys, that supersedes line. Any individual, it pretty much supersedes, Vince, because this guy has proven that winning football is done in a team manner. And if you do anything in a team manner, certainly in this game, you're going to have a very good opportunity to win. And I couldn't take my hat off to Bill Belichick any more than I did. Now, the next guy is Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh up there at the 49ers was dynamic. You know, I can still remember sitting on the bench waiting on his offense to get off the field. They'd be out there 8 minutes and they'd get 3 points. Be out there 12 minutes, get 3 points. The game was close, but they were controlling the time of possession. We never really got going. Right. Whereas prior to him coming there, a trip to San Francisco was not to go up there and play the 49ers. It was to decide which restaurant we were going to eat at the
Fisherman's Wharf.
That's right. We go to Fisherman's Wharf and have a nice dinner, and the girls would go shopping and whatnot. And then we would go and thump them. Bill Walsh came, all of that changed. So I'd like to find out what his plan was to keep his team as successful
West
as
Coast
it was.
offense. The West Coast offense.
And then the next two guys would be his son and then Sean McVay. Sean McVay at the Rams, you know, for his age, it speaks volumes. You know, you don't expect a guy to be that precocious, you know, at his age, to have as much success as he's had, winning as often as he's had. But I understand his system is to step by step, systematically, and on an annual basis, make guys systematically aware of what their responsibilities are. And if you can do that and keep it in bite-sized chunks the way he does, then you're going to have success. That's the reason why he's been consistently winning. I'd like to sit in on a few of his meetings.
Boy, some great coaches you just mentioned, Jackie. That'd be a lot of fun to sit down.
What about you, Van?
Well, I'll tell you what. They're coaches again, and I would say coaches and a player. To be one of the great coaches of all time, and then also go in the commentary booth and do such a great job and be so live and animated and so boisterous, was John Madden.
Oh, I knew you were going to say
I like to see John Madden. I mean, that would be just a lively conversation, and see what things that he really advocated, what he liked to do, and how he was able to come off so strong with the American public. You know, the other coach, obviously, is the legendary Vince Lombardi with the Super Bowl trophies named after. Oh, yeah. I love to sit down with him as a coach. And
a seal here and a seal there, and here we go. Simple stuff, it sounded like.
The sweep, the Green Bay sweep. And then, you know, what he meant to the players. And you mentioned culture. You meant guys like Sean McVay, and then also Belichick, who's the genius. You know, when you talk to a guy like Vince Lombardi, I mean, they all pattern themselves from a great coach like that. And that was one of the all-time leaders, I think, in the NFL football. Definitely. And then the third guy, Jackie, who I got to know, you know him pretty well. probably one of the greatest defensive linemen that ever played the NFL. Probably one of the meanest, fiercest pass rushers in football. Deacon Jones.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't have to go any further. Deacon was, he was a joy to be around. I mean, even though he hated quarterbacks, Jackie, and he played with a passion, he played with an anger spirit.
He did.
And in his heart, he had something to prove every time he went out on the field, Jackie. And maybe it stems from his background.
You know what happened? I was just going to tell you.
Yeah, tell me what happened.
Well, he went off. He got recruited to go off to one school,
right?
And it was an integrated setting, and he wasn't welcome there. And so my understanding was that he had to leave and go, if he wanted to leave and go someplace else because of.
He was at South Carolina State, Jackie, as far as I know. He participated in the civil rights movement back in those days, and that was a critical time in our history.
Right.
Okay. And they revoked his scholarship in those days. It was quite a different scenario back in those days.
Yes.
You and I both grew up in that world. And so he had to leave, and he followed his coach and went to Mississippi Valley State.
Mississippi Valley State, where Jerry Rice went.
Yeah,
Small,
and you know
it'll be in Mississippi.
And can you imagine this guy, who's perhaps the best player of all time, was drafted 14th, Jackie, because there was one coach that was down there looking at running backs down in Mississippi and saw him outrun the running back.
Outrun the running back.
So they go, I got to get this guy. And he came to the Rams. He was so lucky to be drafted by the Rams. He
was an unusual guy, Vince.
And it's a good thing I never got head slapped.
Oh, well,
and you too.
It was a good thing they outlawed the head slap. They outlawed the head slap.
Well, yeah.
And Deacon, before they start actually keeping the record of the sacks, he had 2 seasons where he had over 25 sacks in each back-to-back seasons. That's where he was running by guys like me and getting to the quarterback.
He could do it all different ways.
Now, back in those days, in the offensive lineman's defense, Vince, the rule says that you had to
keep your hands in.
You had to keep your hands in. So most guys were taught to grab the jersey and then block guys, funnel them into to your nose with your elbows. And guys were getting a lot of shoulder surgeries and everything like that. And so when Deacon, at my last 4 years, I think, or 5 years with the Rams, Deacon was doing the color commentary on the radio for the Rams. So he would be on the flight with us, right? And I was so much older than the rest of the guys that, when we got in air, I would go sit down and talk to Deacon, right?
Yeah.
And it never ceases to amaze me. Every time I sit down to talk to him, he said, "You holding?"
Because you're doing the bad Brad out there, Jackie, with your hands.
They changed the rules.
Yeah, you can use your hands.
Well, we could play with extended arms and hit guys as they reached our range instead of letting them get too close. He called me a holding. I can't repeat all of what he said, but
man, he used to tell stories about offensive linemen who were going to prepare to play against him the night before the game. They'd come up sick the next day because they didn't want to play.
Yeah, they didn't want to deal with it.
Because they didn't want to get hit and wiped out. And Jackie, when you think about his career, he played 14 seasons. You know how many games he missed in 14 years?
I do know.
How many?
6.
6 games. Only 6 games in 14 years.
He was dependable. There's no doubt.
And what was great about him, not only was he a great individual talent, Jackie, he blended well with the fearsome foursome. Erlen Olsen and him were like brothers.
Yeah, they were close.
They were close. Lamar Lundy, Rosie Greer.
Absolutely.
One of the greatest defensive front four that I think has ever been assembled on one team. Jackie,
and Vince, you grew up here in Southern California.
Oh God, I used to be a big Rams fan.
You were watching them. You had the privilege of watching that group of guys play together for a number of years through your teen years, right?
That was our team, Jackie. That was our team growing up.
That must have been really cool.
And that's the reason why you became a Rams fan.
Yeah.
Because the Secretary of Defense was leading the charge. It's like, hey, come on,
Deacon was a piece of work,
great,
man. Deacon was a piece of work.
Well, Jackie, we always have so much fun here, and we always enjoy talking about the NFL and anything we can come up with. But we want to make sure you follow us on Instagram at on.point.live and use hashtag OnPointLive with Vince and Jackie for more information. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So for Vince Ferragamo and Jackie Slater and all of us here at the Manhattan Beach Studios, we want to thank you for watching. Until next time, stay on point.